All right, let me share my screen here. Alrighty, can you guys see the screen here with the BYU Idaho?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right, so today's class doesn't really have a PowerPoint. Instead, I'm just gonna give you more on the information about this case diagrams. I'm gonna go through like the importance of what a case diagram is, why it is used, and some guidelines for using it. So first, I'm gonna show you guys this site called draw.io. And this site's actually pretty neat because we used it back in with CIT 260 when we did our project.
Mm-hmm.
And what it helps is what it does. It's just the UML program, kind of like that visual paradigm and lucid chart.
Right.
Uh, but the good part is you don't have to install anything. It's just all web based. And two, if you share it through Google Documents, the whole team was able to work on it at the same time, and you see like the changes instantly.
Right.
That's
I wanted to use this with my group, but they
hmm
wanted to use the visual paradigm because, that was a professional thing that everybody used. So we all had to go to that.
Yeah, see, we tried that in the beginning, but the problem was that like when somebody made a change, we had to upload it, and then the next person had to download it, and it was just um, we were able to convince the instructor to let us use this one instead, which is
Perfect.
good. So this would be the program that well, this would be one of the types of the programs that you would use for to set up a case diagram. It's really up to you which one you want to use, just whatever you're comfortable with. So now case diagrams. Okay, so now let's see. Case diagrams are used by the Unified Modeling Language, or UML, as the primary form of showing system or software requirements for. It's really just a sketch of what you want the software to do, and it's not going to have the detail on how to do it. It should only summarize some of the relationships between like the cases, the actors, and the systems. The case diagram would not show the order of what the steps are performed, like on what. It's not going to show you how like on the exact order of how the steps are done. It's just gonna give you like it's gonna be like a big drawing kind of like that you would show a kid, which I think is kind of funny that it's a pretty important piece of the software development, but it's really very basic.
So I got the impression that the use case kind of went along with user stories almost, or like a used document. So I'm telling a story and it's just the like a really high level of looking at what is going to happen.
Well, actually, it's like telling a story, but not a high level at all. So
Okay.
the way that I'm gonna open up the one that I created. Let's see, open from device here. Let me show you the one that I had created. And the good thing about this is you got to put yourself when you're using these case diagram, like what makes it so helpful is that you're able to design it from the user's perspective instead of like the programmer's perspective. So the user's going to tell you like what they want it to do, and you're just going to draw the picture and kind of show them how it's all going to link together. um, I think it makes it, to me, what I thought made it so valuable was that both, a technical savvy person and a non-technical person would be able to look at this and know what the program's going to do.
Okay.
So, like if you notice here, like I said, when I was designing this, I was thinking like, wow, this really is just like a little, like a drawing that I would show my girls to show them how things work. Um, but uh, as you can see, it's going to tell you everything that this program would do. So I was developing one for. It's kind of like I called it the wireless device management system. And what I envisioned this program to do is that it would allow us to put inventory, change certain aspects of that inventory as things as this all has to do with wireless devices. So like if I were to turn on a phone or turn off a phone or deactivate or activate a service, that's what this system would be for. So the first thing on this case diagram is you have to have your system, which is this big rectangle right here that's selected. And what you're gonna do in there is you're gonna put everything that you want, that you're gonna want this. I guess it could also be called a module to do. So like for here, what I would want to do is I want to create a record of an inventory record for each device. I want to be able to update that record when I need to. I want to be able to run reports off of those records, and that's what's encompassed inside of there. So the next thing that you'll see is these little rectangles, these little rounded rectangles, and these are our case uses. So this is that specific function that's going to do that one thing. So, like I said, it's a quick overview. It's not the actual. It's not going to show any kind of code or tell you exactly how it's going to create a record or what it's going to connect to. It's just going to give it the. When you're drawing these, you're just doing the quick summaries on an individual representation.
Right.
So
And then on this picture where you've got it includes and you're using like a dotted line.
right, yeah. So those are actually called those arrows are called the communication links, and they're gonna show how it relates, how each.
So those are like the relationships between these little.
Yeah, between these little things. So if we look here, like these solid ones,
Mm-hmm.
right here, you'll see these just these basic solid ones. They indicate like what the actor is gonna that the actor is gonna interact with that with this use case. So actors are anybody that's gonna that you identify to be the ones using this system. So like for me, I have a supply sergeant, I have a wireless communication, I mean a supply manager, a wireless communications officer, a budget officer, and a director. And each of them would be using this system, but for different things. And that's where these relationship links come in. So like the supply manager, which is use it to input when a new when we get a new device. So like if we get 10 new phones, the supply manager is the one that gets it, and he'll be able to put it onto this database. And if he needs to run reports, he'll run reports as well. Um, like here, my communication officer, he's the one that actually manages these devices, and this is kind of mimic for what I do at work. So this is like what I do at work is I'll activate and deactivate a device. I'll update the records when that happens on who it's getting issued to, and then I have to run like my cost reports and my inventory reports about where everything is.
Right.
So that's actions that I need to be able to do, but like activating and deactivating and updating records isn't really anything the supply manager has to do. He just has to tell me this is your supply list, and then I'll manage it from there.
Right.
And then as far as the budget person, the budget officer, all they need to run usually is just what it's costing us to run these devices. And then of course my director down here, the only thing that he's concerned with is just same thing, just reports how much does it cost and where's all your equipment at. So that's how that's how this one was designed. That's what these little solid links are. It's just to show that this actor is going to actually interact with this use case.
Okay.
And really, the only things the actors have to do, like their only responsibility, is to interact with the system and trigger those cases. And then when they trigger those cases will, respond back with something. So, like the director says print report, and the case prints the report and gives them an output. Now, these arrows that you were asking about, this include and this use.
Mm-hmm.
So those are actually the same thing. As I was reading through all these resources, they kind of use those words interchangeably. Um, so I just put one of each so that we could, discuss that part of it.
Right.
They mean the exact same thing. Mostly everybody uses include, but a lot of people use as well. So the way that this one is, so when you're doing a relationship on these cases, an include relationship is shown with the arrow, with that dotted arrow, and the tip of the arrowhead is pointing to the child case, and so right here, this little tip is to
Hmm.
the child, and then this one's to the parent. And so what this would mean is that when I click update record, or when they create a record, they're gonna go and make sure that the data that's being inputted is valid.
Right.
So on the extend side down here, oh, actually, this is not the updated one. Okay, so extends. Yeah, here we go. Should actually be here for this case, at least for my case. And I should have actually another use one. So the good thing about this program is everything's kind of here on the side. All the templates are there.
Right.
Just drag and drop it, and I select the N here and create it nice and quick. So for me, the way this would work is when I activate or deactivate a device, like when I go and get the record, it's going to automatically take me to the update record use class here, and then run from there. It's going to automatically go and validate all that data.
And then
Now,
when on that extends one that you just changed, would you want the arrow going up to the update or down to the calculate?
so see, I thought it in my mind, I thought it was supposed to be down to the calculate, but according to the documentation, it says that it should go from let's see here. An extended link should go with the tip of the arrow to the child use case, and the base of, I'm sorry, with the base of the arrow to the use case and the tip of the arrow to the parent case,
Okay.
which I thought was kind of weird because I would have thought it was the other way as well.
Yeah, me too.
It just makes more sense to me, but yeah, I'm not really sure why it's done this way. But the way that it works is that extends part, that the only time that a calculated cost is going to happen is when an activate or deactivate is updated on the record. It doesn't automatically go to it every time we update a record. Because
Okay.
if on the update record all I'm changing is like the phone number or the device type,
Right.
then it doesn't need to calculate any service cost.
Right.
So maybe that's why it's facing the other way instead of the backwards one, instead of like that you'll automatically go to it like this use and like these use lines.
Okay.
It's the only thing I could think of. Um, but yeah, that's basically the big concept of this case diagram. It's just to be able to create a quick sketch with summaries of what each of your use cases are going to do, so that both you as the programmer and then the users are able to agree of like, yes, this is what the program should do, and then from here you'll start working on making it do this. So it's the quick outline, a quick visual outline, and that is the whole concept of case diagrams. Kind of, I like I said, I think it's a little bit I don't know, a little cartoony, but in the end, it actually seems to be very beneficial for both parties, so
Right.
that you're not over creating something that the user is going to find too complex, or missing some, or showing something to the user that they just don't understand,
Right.
and they're like, "What is this?" So I think
See, I
it's
was
uh-huh. Go
I was
ahead.
just trying to think what would be like I could use. Like I can think of tons of stuff that I use all the time with signing in or Canvas, if we're walking through those things, but I don't know the backside of everybody that's looking at all those things.
Right. Yeah, because that's more on the programmer side. So yeah, what you would see would be, I guess, something like this, where because there was an example like where you would say like your login,
Right.
and then you would extend out to see if it was invalid username and password,
Right.
and that was the only time that you would check. And then if it wasn't valid, then that use case will jump in and say, wrong username and password.
Right.
But yeah, um, any other questions?
Nope.
Yeah, I kind of have one.
Sure.
So the extends thing, I always think about extending in like the Java classes and whatnot, and so you could have like multiple classes extend the same thing. Could you have multiple cases extend that one service?
Is that this one right here, the calculate service?
Yeah.
Yeah, because so the way I was seeing it was that the only time that this would get used was if a certain if a certain field, which was the activate or deactivate service on a device, was was done, and then that's when I would extend over to that calculate service to run that as well.
Could you have like another um thing? So instead of just updating like a create that also extends the same thing?
And say it again.
So like let's say you wanted your run cost reports bubble to also extend that calculate service costs. Could you do that?
Oh yeah, yeah. You could. So you're talking about like just
Make another one so like it basically extends to two things? Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and that's like I said, and that's actually the whole point of this cost diagram is for things like that. Is as multiple people get on there, they'll plan it out as how it's going to run, and then after this, then that's where the programmers take over and actually start calculating all the code or start writing all the code for this.
That's
Yeah.
interesting
So,
because as a programmer, I've never seen some of these.
oh no, I know
Yeah.
the only other time I saw something like this was at work. We were trying to get a database. Not a database. I'm sorry. It was well, kind of like a database tracking system for a lot of our equipment built by this outside company. And it kind of started off like this, we sat with their engineers, and it was our command sergeant majors, and all these higher ups in the military who are not very tech savvy, older folks. And we kind of sat down and had a big whiteboard, and we drew out what we wanted to do, and it looked a lot like this just on a big whiteboard. Uh,
Hmm.
and then at the end of the day, they said, okay, well, go see what we need for this to happen, and they made it happen. So, but
Interesting.
that's the only time I've ever seen it in a real life scenario. Is when we did that, and I didn't actually know that at that time this was let me see, been back in 2014 time frame was when I was out thinking like, oh, that's just because we took pictures of it afterwards just to make sure that when they came back with the finished product, it did like what the picture said. that was uh that was for all my tech savviness, my limited tech savviness. But yeah, so I mean, I could actually say I've seen this in real life, just not on a program diagram. It was all done by hand, and just talking with their engineers at the same time with what our needs were.
Yeah, so since all of our programming is like for internal use,
Uh-huh.
we normally get with our users who are also in the same company, and they'll give us like a high level of what they want, and then we'll make like a flow chart for them. Basically, here's what it does, here's the systems that it's going to hit, and then if they okay it, then one of us programmers will go in and make like a whole tech spec sheet where like we specify tables and stuff so we can hand it to like more junior programmer so they can just develop it.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, that would be kind of like well, that would be the concept of the UML, right? What's that? Unified Modeling Language?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
I think where I'm having trouble with, I get this. I think this is easy to lay out what you would want it to do. Where I'm having trouble is majority of everything that I interact with because I don't program. Like I was thinking, even if you were to think off the games that we did, there was nobody on the backside evaluating these things. Does that make sense? Like I can write a user to say, oh, they came to the game menu and they were able to either load a game, save a game, of view a report. Like I can list all the things that and options they could go to and what the
Uh-huh.
user would see, but there would never be anybody on the backside looking at those things as well.
So then I think you would only have like the one person.
So you're
Like
just
the
showing a
user.
user on the one side. Like if you're walking through a game, most of the time it's you, unless you're sharing where it's a multiple player game where I guess there could be other users or players that interact as well.
Right. So I think for like a game like that, it'll be something more like let me just get blank right here real quick.
Because I was
You
just thinking what he's expecting, and I'm thinking, okay, if I walked through on a sign in, let's say into BYUI of things, I could look at my student thing. Like I can list all the things I have access to, and obviously I could say, um, like tech support or whatever administrator would also be able to help me if I got into trouble in these areas. I was just trying to think if it would be fine to only have the user walking through the
I
stuff
would
that's
say
in that file.
yes because if that's what the software does, then that's what the software does. So
Okay.
it doesn't have to be something designed for multiple users.
Okay.
Like I said, so this is just the quick visual representation of what your program would do. So I guess on your program, since you just have oops, the one person doing everything,
Right.
it would be something like this where you would,
So I'm just listing the options as the user. Well, I'm just thinking you're walking through like you're the user and what options are there. It looks
right.
like
Hmm.
Titan was saying, sorry, I'm getting beeps. I was checking thing. He says that he was going to be here in 5 and was asking if um, we're still going.
Oh yeah.
And I said, yeah, we'll still be here in 5. Okay, so if I'm doing one of these, I could just look at something we do all the time because he keeps saying pick something you're really familiar with. I'm thinking, well, I log in every day, all
Hmm.
day long, and I definitely know what things are in my view of things we can look at.
Yeah, so it would be something like that. Just so you would put your login screen,
Okay.
and then once you're logged in, what else would you do in your program? Just
Like email.
Yeah, you
yeah,
could check email, you could check to see your student information, you could update it. I mean, there's a lot of, I mean, you could get super complicated. I was just thinking when you come in and land at home, you have options to go to email, student, holds, if you want
right.
to break down into the thing. I mean, so there's any of those, but, and I do know obviously there's somebody on the back end doing stuff. It's just,
Hmm.
I personally don't know who that is.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, this that would be just represented like this. Like, so you'll be saying that this user could log in, this user could email, this user could, check records, whatever it is. And you don't actually have to explain how that's done. It's just showing that that's what it would do.
Okay.
Now, one of the things they did mention is that you don't want to put too many of these use cases in there.
Right.
Uh, you know, some people said somewhere around 10, some people said around 20. So you just want to keep it limited. If you have like a really complex piece of software, then you just want to make every module
Right. So you'd
a
want to take
system.
one thing. Like if I was just doing email, then I would just go to, we're going to log in, go to email. From there, I could check my outbox, check my inbox, but just stick to email.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So stuff like that. Just don't make it like they say anything past 20 is probably way too much.
Well, I was hoping to only have to do 4 or 5. Like,
Yeah, and then that's about right. I don't think you have to do a huge number of it.
right. Okay. But yeah, I was most of the examples I had looked at always kept showing somebody on the back side where, they might be able to validate the login credentials or whatever, or they can see the logs of what's been happening on the access of that thing. And I'm thinking, well, I'm sure that BYU Idaho has those things going on, but I personally don't know what any of they where they are because I'm only the user using the equipment.
Correct. And that's what the case diagram is for. It's just for the user, like I said, for the user view part of it.
Okay.
So that's it doesn't get into the details. It doesn't get onto how it's done. It really is just going to show what is done.
Okay.
So yeah. Any other questions?
I don't.
No. Mason?
On Mason, did you have any other questions?
Nah.
Have you on the topic? He also talked that he kind of mentioned that we could start looking at our professional review or whatever.
Hmm.
Oh
Do
yeah,
you-
I haven't looked at that yet.
Well, I looked at the announcer or watched I don't know, maybe he had a video on that or just was reading. Maybe it was when I was reading the board. But one of the guys was saying, I kind of got the impression that the instructor wasn't really a place to go. And I haven't really ever interacted with him at all. I usually go to my group or on the discussion board.
Hmm.
Hmm.
But I assume we all have to have we have to show an example. Well, I couldn't get the impression, is it just an example of each of the things on there, or he expects certain amounts of more than one example of each
Oh,
thing?
that's right. I did hear that. Like where you're supposed to show like a screenshot of either a chat you had with somebody or
Hmm. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think so. Like your developer forum stuff, if you've replied, I mean, that kind of shows professionalism, I guess. I've never used a forum at work. We always use chat,
uh-huh.
Right.
or emails. So maybe if you have an email from another student, you can use that.
Well, yeah, and then I think somebody asked, because I think one of the things says, how did you interact with another group? And I'm thinking, we've never interacted with another group. We've never even been asked to interact with another group.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just on the forum board.
Well, and that's
right.
what I wondered. I mean, but that's not a group. I mean, those are different individuals.
So does it, I guess that is a good question. Does it have to be, you have to show interaction for each topic? Or
Uh,
just that you've done it
Well, I
at
think there's like
times
four
throughout
or five topics. I think there's like interacting with a group, interacting with professionalism with individuals, interacting with your group, interacting with individuals in your group, interacting with the instructor. Like there was, and you have to show an example, I think, of each one of those.
Oh, ooh.
yeah, that's what it sounds like because it says separate your document for each category, and it says he's looking for direct examples. Um,
And I thought, well, I at least have one where I wrote to him. He knocked me points like on the one of the first few weeks of the discussion board, and I'd written him an email saying, could you please clarify what exactly is required to get full points? I guess I somehow have missed something. And I had made a copy of what the direction said. It says if you make your own original post or this many replies, and I think that week I had made a post but only made 2 other replies, which I thought 3 would be enough between the. And so I did send him an email. He sent me a very nice email back, and I said thank you for. He basically just said go look at my link. And what he really was saying was I expect 3 replies, not on the same day, and I don't care how many posts you really make.
yeah.
And I was really grumpy at myself because Saturday night I thought I should just do one more, because I usually try and do one extra to hope that if he doesn't count that one being more than thanks or whatever,
Right.
I'd have enough. And then I thought, no, I've read the directions 3 times on right there on each week that we look at this, I'm fine. And he's like, you did a pretty good job, but I'm only giving you 6 points. I'm thinking, I never miss points on a discussion board. What do you mean I only got 6 out of 10? And when you're an F, the whole thing, really? You're going to take those 4 points away from me?
Yeah.
But then I wrote very professionally back, thanks for the information. Thought, that's what I'm putting in. Hi, Dyden.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Good.
How's it going?
I'm sorry I'm so late.
No worries. We were just trying to clarify what everybody understood as the professional review, and maybe some ideas or things we're thinking about for our project, our application project or whatever.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so some things that I've seen in the past were like, so if you made like a recording for, the group here, you could use some of that, or you could use like your PowerPoint if you made one, and you can like send that in kind of deal.
Okay.
And then, yeah, just the developer forums and
So like we could say, I want you to look at this part of the recording. It could even be that we weren't presenting, but we asked a question, but we did it in a professional manner. I could say my interaction here was showing this.
oh yeah, totally.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
You just give them like specific times.
Yeah, go look at 5 minutes, whatever.
Yeah.
We should write a question and answer video, and then I'll turn one in.
Titan, are you ready to present your thing?
Yeah, can do.
All right, perfect.
Can do. Hey. Sit down. All right, sorry. Dog.
No worries.
It's pretty short. There's not a whole lot to be said about them. Did you guys get through the case diagrams?
Yep.
Okay, because they're really intertwined. Like all of the same principles are going to be kind of like talked about. It's just case documents jump a little bit more into the actual cases. So, I just did a quick little like to use cases is you have to understand use cases. So use case diagrams. A use case is essentially a verb. So it's like essentially what can someone do? They can search, they can place, they can get in terms of like an online order thing. And you want to put them in kind of order of how they will be used. So it's like first they would search and then they'd place an order, then they would get help if they needed it. So then, like I said, that's an example of like a really simple case diagram. So what are use case documents? So pretty much use case documents are the method of planning how things are all going to work and run together. It's all relative to like achieving the end product. So like how do I get from A to B and what are all the steps defined in between? We use like the same kind of unified model language, which is UML, which is just like the fancy term for who does what in the program. Use case diagrams documents are a way of organizing our information or speed up our development. I saw that a lot when looking through like UML examples. It always uses agile development as their big term. The major difference between case diagram and a case document is that you describe what occurs in each of the use cases. So it's not so much like your stick figure example, like this does like, well, this thing can do this, this, or that. It really goes in and explains what each case does. So contained in a use case document is like the name of the use case, a summary of what it's supposed to do, conditions that are present before the actor does anything, what triggers the use case, general steps that would create success in the use case, alternative ways to achieve success in the use case, what's shown after the use case is successfully ran, rules that the actor must follow to achieve success, and lastly, additional notes that you have. So really, it's just getting really like technical. I mean, like, I guess not technical even so much, just kind of repetitive in my mind. It's like, this is what it does. This is how it's going to do it. These are the rules that are applied to it. This is what triggers it, kind of thing. So it's like here, I found an example of like a use case document filled out. So I filled one out and kind of following along with what they did. So it's like they added the name, they had a summary of what it's supposed to do, a version number, which I'm pretty sure we won't have to worry about. Preconditions of like what's there already. So system outputs a list of cars, and then the system outputs an add button. The trigger is the user selecting the add a car icon, icon or whatever. So the main success scenario is basically describing like, do all of these to get the goal that you were intending the user to get. So it's like they at least in my example, they put in the make, model, color, year, and mileage, and then they hit add car. There's not really an alternative success scenario to this, which is basically like, or they could do this, because I don't know. It's like I was just thinking really simple terms of like filling out like a map or array or whatever. So not really an alternative success scenario to my example. The post conditions is it would output the new list, the new car list, and would also output the add car button again, so they could add another one if they cared to. Then the rules that are applied to the success scenario is the make field can't be empty, the model field can't be empty, the color field can't be empty, and the year field cannot be empty. Then I also just included in the notes that mileage is optional. So that's one thing that they don't have to do or to put it in, and then author and date. So it's honestly really simple. There's not much more to be said. It's just breaking it down to like the nitty gritty of like what everything is included and what everything is outputted in each use case. Though I was looking through examples on like GitHub and seeing like kind of what people have done. They've only made things like this. They really only outputted one case document. So I think this is pretty much all you have to do. So it's real simple.
Okay. So,
yeah.
Go ahead.
Just questions at this point, yeah.
Yeah, so the use case document is kind of like a user story then.
Yeah, it's essentially everything that the user is going to experience and do.
Right, so instead of writing it in paragraphs, they've just stuck it in columns to say, this is what we expect to happen. It'll calculate, you know, if you're doing a math thing, it'll calculate, this is what it'll get. If they don't put something in, it'll either be prompted to give us an answer or that they can leave, but nothing will be done, kind of a thing.
Yeah, I'd say the only difference between user story and case document is just that the case document can be referring to anything. It's like that could be like another function that's just referencing another function.
Okay, so you're saying a use case is just looking at one particular area. You could have multiple use case documents filled out for the same thing, looking at different areas.
Yeah, it's like using this example. So the add car would be search or place order or get help. All three of those would need case documents to be like documented, I guess.
Okay. So a user story might give an overview of the entire program, but we're looking at just one particular method of it.
Yeah, just pretty much like if the stick figure picked that one, this is what they'd experience, kind of thing.
Okay.
And does it have to be in this format, or can it be like in a paragraph format?
I honestly was just looking up like, you know, templates and examples. I didn't see any of them in paragraph form, but I don't see why you couldn't, just in terms of as long as you have, you know, like what's going to happen. I don't know. I just saw it in this kind of simple form, and I thought I liked it, so I went with it.
Yeah, no, I like the way it's laid out. It's really straightforward to where you can just follow down and look.
I've always seen them in Excel.
Oh, have you?
Yeah, because it's like in a cell format, you know.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. Because I mean, it really is just like rows and columns. I just saw it in the doc.
Right.
So you have your like success scenarios. Is it like ever prudent to put like failure scenarios?
I honestly didn't see any of them that included failure. I just think that they're honestly looking at like, this is how you achieve success. I did see that in the alternative success, they added a lot of like plan Bs to like if main success wasn't followed. And that's kind of what I wrote is like, if a user tries to continue without entering an input, an error will be displayed asking for the enter the information requested in the field. So I think that's kind of like where you do like a catch almost in the alternative success is like, anyway, this is what they'll be redirected to in order to have success.
Yeah, so kind of like going with yours, because I work for an auto company. Um, on our website, you can put in the make, year, and model and stuff, and it'll pull up the specific things that we sell for your car. But if you don't, then it'll just pull it for all cars, kind of deal.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's kind of what you're after in a way. Is just like that would be the alternative success scenario. Is like if you could make all like make, model, color, year, or mileage all optional, and just say alternative success is it displays all products, and that could be like your app. In its essence, it'd be like that's your application. Is it just shows everything that's not specified.
Cool.
And that'd actually be a good idea for an application in my mind almost, just if you made like a simple like search bar that using keywords would bring up, it would narrow your list down to whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Well, any more questions?
No, I'm good.
Nope, I don't think so.
Alrighty, awesome. I mean, I only have like 5 slides, so I felt like I was slacking, but there wasn't like a whole ton there that is like, raw information to be put down if you understand case diagrams.
Right.
Yeah, I think it was fine.
No,
Yeah.
I thought it's great. Like I said, I read on it kind of the end of last week and thought, oh, those won't take me very long. I'll whip those out. That's what actually I was hoping to get them done tomorrow. But then I kept thinking, I only know the one side. Well, where I keep getting hung up is I use a lot of stuff, but I only know it from me, the user, nothing from the back end of tech support, database, whatever.
Yeah.
Will it be okay if we just marking it from the user side?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that should be just fine because it's like I said, it just honestly, as long as your use case document refers to an actor, which is literally just about anything that's being affected by a function,
Right.
you're good.
Cool.
Yeah, you could also make like your own just short things. You don't have to like go off something that you currently use. Although, since you're more familiar with something that you do use, it's probably easier.
Right.
But if you can like just make up something
Well, I
off the
thought
top
I
of your
could make somebody up and say, oh, Tech totally watches this side and would look at these things. I mean, I figured I could put anything. He doesn't care. I just have to show that I know what it would be doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I figured I could take a real object and, tweak it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So, perfect. Anything else?
No, I figure I'll probably just watch the recording after it's up and figure out what I missed out on.
Perfect.
Once again, sorry I was late. I just got called into work and had to run out.
No worries. Who do we have for next week? Do we still have 2 more things to go over, right?
Yeah. Let's see here. I had it pulled up.
Next week it's Ronald and Gary.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they're going over state diagrams and sequence diagrams.
So state and sequence. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, and then I saw in the announcement that we have to have it done by week 11. So does that mean if we turn our last of our stuff on week 10, like if we were fixing anything, then we're still okay?
You mean for just the basics?
Basic level, yeah.
That's what I've seen in the past is basically if you can get basic by the end of week 10, then you have week 11, 12, 13.
Right, to finish it up.
It's like a half week, so you have like a half week to do.
Right, to get your stuff. Yeah. Okay.
Which was the half week? Week 10?
Week 14.
14.
Oh, week 14. Okay.
Yeah, 14's really like kind of till Wednesday or something.
Right.
Yeah. He finally grades really fast.
Just for my own sanity, week 10, we're still okay to turn in basic level stuff.
Well, that's what I was just asking. I thought we had to have it all done by 10 because I'm thinking, okay, I might get 2 or 3 done. Does that mean I need to turn it in on week 9, which would be off the cycle, or I have till week 10?
Oh, yeah.
I may just turn it in week 9.
For the safety of it.
Yeah, just make sure that it's in, and if it needs to be added more. I've heard mainly, a lot of these, we make them kind of simple, but we got to make them look like we've filled them up with stuff.
Okay, yeah.
At least I think it's on those last few, the sequence and the state diagrams.
So my understanding is that even if you don't get basics on everything by the end of week 10, whatever you do have basic on, you could go further and then still get basic on those topics. So like, let's say you have half your topics in your basic already, you can get those to advanced, and then the rest of them you can get to basic.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
Well, I think if you want to be able to go on to the application, you have to have all 14 at a basic level. If you don't, you're still on the C level, meaning you may not have hit basic, but you have the whole semester to get those to basic and improving your others.
Okay, and that would be like the B path then, or whatever.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay, well that's cool to know at least.
Yeah, I think if you like perfect everything, you can get like a C+ in the class by just getting basic.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Because yeah, I still feel like I have like 5 of these left.
Yeah.
Probably 7. Who knows? It's
Well,
been a while since I've counted.
I have 5. So I have the use case document and diagram. What was the one before that? The state one?
System level
Yeah, or
test?
system tests. Yeah, so I had system tests, which didn't seem that hard either, just like something I had to write out. That's why I thought, oh, I could probably whip those 3 out tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, literally, that's all I found in terms of like a template for use case documents was just that little template I filled out.
Yeah, and then that left the sequence and the other. Those were all I had left. I thought I have only diagrams, and hopefully that won't take very long.
Hopefully.
So
Okay.
just like a quick question on the use case diagram. That was, I don't know, all I ever saw was pictures. Is that always like kind of expecting, you think?
Yeah, that's everything I've read and seen. It literally is a stick guy
Yeah.
of whatever the user, however you're putting in, and then inside the box, which is the system, what they can do.
Okay.
Or the module. What was it called, Giovanni?
Yeah, what the system could do.
Yeah.
You got it right. Yeah. Yeah, it's just the graphic representation of what that unit test or what that
The module or something you said.
yeah, what the system does.
All right. Well, that sounds easy too. Well, that gives me hope at least.
Yeah, so I thought I might, because originally I thought I have 5 left. Can I whip them all out this week to have them in by week 8, knowing I will give me time to, if I have to fix any of them up. And then I
Yeah.
read the first couple at the end of last week and thought, oh, that will take me no time at all. I can totally do
Yeah.
that. And I'm thinking, oh, great, it's already Wednesday and I haven't done any of them. So, all right. Well, I'll let everybody, we should get probably heading out. It's already getting late.
Yeah.
And
Well, thanks so much.
Yeah, no
for-
worries. And then I'll get this recorded or chanced over and a link given out to everybody.
All right, thank you.